building toys for my grandma. I love my grandma and grandpa.
Next, we'll go to New State-Farm Park proposal for Austin Coeur Lake. Mike Holland, you have a 10-minute presentation, sir, I understand.
I'll try to keep it to 10.
Well, we're going to make sure you do.
Five of you want to make it.
You're on the clock.
You got your help. Thank you for your time on your agenda to share with you.
Can you shut maybe one light off so we can see the board a little better? There you go. That's good. Oops. That's good.
Well, first of all, thank you for your time on your agenda. I'm going to share with you a proposal from my board. Our series board of directors empowered a tourism protection committee about a decade ago, and they've requested me to ask of the county commissioners to convene an oversight committee to design and implement a new type of state farm park. There's a unique model here in the entire state of North Carolina, so this is a very exciting project for me. In addition, they'd like to consider asking you to fund a feasibility study to determine the return on investment, the generation of ecotourism-based revenue for the county. And as you know, large state-funded parks are an economic positive to the host counties. I think there's a clicker here. Whoops. And just to start off with, we're, as you know, in the center of the economic arch of North Carolina. Here's the location of the proposed park, 1,100 acres down here in the corner, of the southern corner of the county, 11 miles from where we're sitting here, also 11 miles from Carborough, 12 miles from Chatham Park down in Pittsburgh, we'll get to that, and then more importantly, only 11 miles from the interstate. And here's the actual site map. The proposed state park, 1,100 acres, borders Orange County. It's next to the landfill. Importantly, it borders the landfill 3/4 mile border, the Haw River, 2 miles of water frontage, and it's only a mile from the top corner by road to Saxapahaw. Here's Saxapahaw Mill, the corner of the mill here. The strengths of this project, of course, are location. The location at the center of 66% of North Carolina's tourist target audience. The other strength is the people of Alamance County. They've demanded more park and trails. In the 2003 generated 2020 plan, if you remember back, that was one of the main things they asked for, and one of the main things the county got a report card back, A+ after 10 years. So in addition, we're hearing back from the strategic plan that's being put together now that they want park and trails. So the people of Alamance are a huge strength. The county staff, they've been focused for the past decade on passive parks and trails, and they're currently looking to develop a park in the southern part of the county. The Haw River Trail and the Mountains to Sea Trail are a great strength for this project. Bruce Cameron family, the Saxapahaw, the customer base has been is a great strength for this project. Saxapahaw has been training the customer base of tourists for the last 15 years and bringing our brand of sustainable ecotourism to that target audience. The stakeholders are another strength for this project. They include the State Park and Rec Director Mike Murphy, the Bruce Cameron family who own the land, and the Saxapahaw Chamber of Commerce, to name a few. Some of the weaknesses are the landfill is in a single owner status now. In 2004, when there was some conjecture of privatizing the landfill, there were contracts in place, but now we're doing a fantastic job. Greg Thomas is doing wonderful work, compacting better. We own the equipment. So, but that does allow it to be sold outright. If a future board doesn't have the vision of this board, then that might be a concern and a weakness. In addition, the lack of zoning near the landfill. The landfill siting costs are another weakness. They are continuing to climb, and the number of sites continues to diminish. Saxapahaw's growth limits are another weakness, and Saxapahaw has a limited ability to absorb an increasing amount of projected tourism. It's a good model we've built, but it's in a constricted location. The threats are that these kinds of projects are less able to be done each year. The costs increase each year for these types of properties. The number of properties are going down. Investors are looking for these large properties. They call them safety deposit boxes with a view. The owner is ready to sell. Another threat right now. The company that manages the Cameron property has told me they're ready to sell. We've had some extensive discussions with them. getting them to sell, and now they're ready to sell. They're the patriarch of that family died about 2 years ago, and they've been in mourning, and they've been putting their family together, and now they're ready to get this property off their books. There's a potential loss of landfill buffer around the landfill, so another threat, which was brought up in the last 2 years, the buffer issues around the landfill. The Chatham Park tourist inundation is certainly a threat to be considered. This is down in Pittsburgh. As you can see here, the town of Pittsburgh. It's 2 times larger than Pittsburgh. Is a 7,500 acre, 50,000 person development, which is bordering on the Haw River. It's 12 miles upstream here to where we are at this park. So this forms a particular threat to this project and ecotourism in Saxapahaw in general. Opportunities, this is the important part. The big projects comes with high quality partnerships. Those include folks like Elaine Chioso, the riverkeeper, the Haw Riverkeeper downstream, who have recently tangled with Burlington, and they've sued successfully, settled, and they've changed the methods that Burlington uses, so that's a good partner. The Conservation Fund of North Carolina, I've met with the director. We have his buy-in. The president of the Great Outdoor Provision Company, I've met with him and have his buy-in. He helped us extensively put together the Haw River Trail with funding and support. The Haw River Ranch owners, this is a new 300-acre specialty dairy farm and meat cattle farm in Saxapahaw that's been put together, and we've got their support. And again, finally, there's a multi-county effort that's available here through the backside of the facility into Orange County, so there's good partnerships with Orange County to be made. Ecotourism as a tax revenue source. Currently, Saxapahaw is proving that this model of ecotourism is viable in Alamance County on the Haw River. So, just to remind you of what you probably already know, the amount of travel expenditures is at a record level. In 2012, it was $20 billion. This is in the heart of the recession. Domestic tourism is supporting 200,000 jobs across the state. Importantly, $580 million in local tax revenue. I think that's something very important to point out. And then an investment by the state in this type of park project, the operating budget that brings provides a substantial return to the communities that host these types of projects. The bridgehead, an opportunity to form a bridgehead to Chatham Park. I've spoken with Bubba Rawls, the developer down in Chatham Park, and he's excited about working with our county to develop this park. He certainly doesn't want competition right up the river with another 1,000-acre development, I can tell you that. And when I say a bridgehead, as you can see down here, here's the Chatham Park project, Pittsburgh. Here's Chapel Hill. On Friday night, these people are going to be told, you can go here and get a drink in Chapel Hill. You can also be told on Saturday morning, and they will, and you're looking forward to telling people this, go to Saxapahaw on Saturday for your activities. And our ecotourism model is working, but we're constrained, as I said. We're at our limit. We can barely handle parking right now. It's a successful model, but success can sometimes kill itself. But this is going to form a nice little triangle here with this park, a nice economic ecotourism triangle. Half of Saxapahaw farmers market audience over the last 15 years have been the thousands of people that have entered from the triangle. So the triangle is a part of our target audience. Part of the property, importantly, and the backside does end up 90 acres of it is in Orange County, so it does give us a backdoor possibility. Funding available through the Conservation Fund. Again, I've spoken with Bill Holman. He's the North Carolina director for the fund. He was the Secretary of DENR in '98. He was also the Clean Water Management Trust Fund. He was the director of the Clean Water Management Trust Fund. He's dealt with these $100 million budgets, and he's able to now direct his fund to our cause. What he's waiting on, he's given us his support, but he's waiting on is some movement by the state or by a county. And that doesn't necessarily mean funding, and I put that at the beginning of this proposal, but if we could get the development of the committee to start with, that would show him our support, and the funding could be a promise, which may never happen, and somebody like the Great Outdoor Provision Company might bring in that feasibility study funding. And then it meets as well the goals of the county park and recs. Our mandate in 2003 and the 2020 plan to put in more park and rec, more parks and more trails. And importantly, at the state level, the Park and Recs Director, Mike Murphy, I've met with him, and he said it's a good location for a central park on the Mountains to Sea Trail. It meets the needs for also new park development at the state level. We're having our record visitation levels right now. And as you can see, this part of the state centered on Durham and Chapel Hill is overserved. The population, this is an overserved population with parks and park properties. And when you come to Alamance County, this entire area is devoid of parks. We have a small park the same size as the one we're talking about, Morrow Mountain, and we have Haw River State Park at 1,000 acres and Hanging Rock. This area right here would be a great target audience for a new park, and this would fill the gap that's left around this area, which is what they want to see happen. And finally, this establishes firmly for Alamance County as the center of the Mountains to Sea Trail. As this statewide trail moves across the state, it is running into some difficult areas in the center of the state, the most populous and most developed. From when it was started in the 70s to now, the development has caught them off guard. They've had to change the planned route in the last 10 years. Matter of fact, in 2006, the trail did not go through Saxapahaw, and just in terms of the center, the point about it being the center of the state. If I could take your attention to Jockey's Ridge State Park here, the trail runs along the coast, up the Noose, across the Piedmont, through the mountains. Most of this is in place. There's these little red areas here which form the parks that are in place, and these are all projected. And in our area right here, if I blow it up, you can see where it's projected. It comes down to Saxapahaw and Cane Creek. Now, the 2006 meeting where we determined the planned route, the folks in Chatham County couldn't make the last of 3 meetings, and so Hillsborough bent it and brought it up to Hillsborough instead. They lost out down here in Chatham County. So this is the planned route. Establishing Saxapahaw as the center of the trail would help us with our branding, but it would help the state Park and Recs program as they try to put a park at this location. They planned a park in 2006 when they bent this trail up to Hillsborough, somewhere down in here, and that's exactly where the property lies. So, in conclusion, what's the next step? We would like to ask, our board has asked that the county commissioners put together a feasibility study committee. And once that feasibility study committee has put their recommendations in your hands and you've approved them, turn that over to a consultant, and by that time we hope to have pro bono support sufficient to cover the cost of the feasibility study. Run that feasibility study through the consultant, see what comes out, and then task the study committee to implement their findings toward making this park a reality. Now when I say this park, the projected costs that we've come up with are around $10 million for the development of the park, paid for out of the trust fund, partly supported by the state parks, the North Carolina state parks. So part grant money, fund money, nonprofit money, part state money, and we hope that the county then, with that kind of partnership, can maintain control over the management of the park. And our Park and Recs director has said he's on board with this project as well. So we're looking forward to building a project that he can maintain to develop new jobs for Alamance County, especially in the southern part of the county. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. Any questions or comments?
Is the Cameron family, they're selling the property to whomever?
Well, their grandfather died,
Yeah.
and he was the gentleman who had sold 400 acres of his 1,500 back in '94 for the county landfill.
Yeah, we had to sue him to get it, though.
And so his other 1,100 was effectively landlocked by the, see if this will go back. He was landlocked here by an undetermined border with Orange County at the time, the Haw River. The landfill was here, and there was a one-way dead-end road coming here, no way to get through. Hundreds of acres of woods here inexpensively. So he couldn't build a development down here because the landfill was a noxious neighbor that people didn't want to drive by to come to a place with houses. But when he passed away, that was 2 years ago, his family was not looking to sell, but we approached them to see if they would be willing to put it on the, make it available to the county.
Have they made put a price on it?
They have asked for an appraisal, and I've spoken to the parks director about that in terms of costs, I would like to have one of our corporate partners pay for the appraisal, and that would give it a third-party temperature.
So what you're asking for tonight is for us to just consider it by appointing a committee, is that it?
Yes, sir. And this first bullet here, convening an oversight committee, this is the most important. But when the Conservation Fund, when Bill Holman looks at the results of this meeting tonight, and he sees that that second bullet is on there, that this was requested and not rejected, and this is, of course, down the road. I want to have funding in place before that ever happens. I don't want to cost a nickel to our overtaxed, challenged community. I want to protect folks' good tax revenue. So this is on there as a lure for the Conservation Fund to come on. They're on board, but they want to see some support from the county and from the state before they put their money into this.
Dr. Mike, I'm going to suggest that you just continue to stay in contact with our recreation folks and with our manager, and I know we're looking at the possibility of course, and you brought up the Haw River Trail, extending it along that, you know, that right of way there that we need to link that up, and then also maybe some of that property possibly for a buffer for the landfill.
Well, that's a great buffer, yes.
But other than that, that's something, you know, we'll just let you continue to speak with him, if that's okay, and he can just keep us advised of what's going on.
And Mr. Chairman, that's where staff has been at this point on this project is if the board wants us to pursue a much larger project,
Yeah.
we'll be more than happy to. But the immediate need that we see for the county is the additional possibility of buffer area for the landfill.
Yeah.
Again, that's probably one of the best assets that we do have in the county. And Greg, I think, has been working with our engineer on that and trying to see how many acres we would need to adequately have the right buffer. Brian has also been looking at the Mountain to the Sea trail and the issue there. That's where we have been at staff, but if the board is wanting us to, we'll be more than happy to take it a much further than we have at this point, and begin from our endpoint, start looking at grants and options and what we can do to coordinate probably the obtaining of the property without using county dollars. But if that is the direction the board wants us to, it would help us moving forward for putting a little bit of time and effort to it to make sure we had that direction from you.
I would be okay with that. Just out of curiosity, maybe Greg can answer this. I know it's quite a bit of timber on this property, nice pines.
Yes,
Well,
Maybe that's a potential for helping to do some funding out of that. I don't.
Our estimate's about $1 million in timber sits on
Yeah. So
I think we'd be remiss to
Yeah, I
pass up
agree.
an opportunity if we could possibly end up with a really nice park at no cost to us, but I do have a couple of questions. One is, you mentioned hiring a consultant to help do more study feasibility at all. Would that be paid for by somebody else, by one of your corporate partners? Or?
I feel that if we convene an oversight committee and they see that kind of commitment from the county level, from the board, that the fund, the Conservation Fund, will then go and do the initial first rights of refusal process with owners and possibly pay for the appraisal as well. Then we would have the land somewhat protected. Land is extremely at risk right now. This is a
Right,
sweet
I
spot
can
and
see-
opportunity.
yeah, I can
Land
see
costs are
that.
about to crank up again. It's low, it's flat, it's been flat since 2000, for 15 years. I bought land at high levels before the recession, 3,000 to 5,000 an acre. They're still running that down on Alamance Creek right now, 3,000 to 5,000 an acre for large parcels, if you can find anything over than 60 or 100 acres, and it's difficult.
Right.
So at this size, 1,100 acres, probably 3,000 an acre to 4,000 an acre.
I don't see any problem with this board saying, yeah, we're interested, we'd
Yeah, just,
We'd
I
like
was
to
going
see
to
what's
say by
going on.
consensus.
follow
Yeah.
up on it and say, yeah.
And I don't mind
okay.
being
We're not committing any
on
money.
the committee. If we need a committee with Brian, since I'm on the Park and Rec committee already,
That'd be good.
I'd be more than happy to help.
Would there be ongoing operating costs if this were developed the way you've envisioned it?
Well, we've looked at similar size comparables. Eno River State Park is a good example, 1,000 acres put together by the city in the 70s. They run about a $500,000 a year budget. A military park that's got very low costs, no real facilities, you just walk around, that's about a $300,000 a year budget. And so those are parks like the one at Eno River, where they bring in about 350,000 visitors per year, and it's in a similar market. It's only distributed market for us. We are looking at the same target audience. So we're looking at 300,000 visitors per year, and we can do a small charge of $1 per person and cover our entire operating costs at that rate. If we let it go completely state park, it's out of your hands, and the state park folks are really excited about getting this land. So if you want to continue management of this property, that's why I think the county should strike now, and then do a partnership where you could have somebody else pay for it, but you could then manage it through Brian's office, and you'd have some control over the property in relation to your landfill, which I'm sure is a very
Well, the
valuable tool.
buffer part is definitely a positive. to
Let
that.
somebody else buy your buffer for you.
I'm sure that as we speak publicly, the knowledge that the land's out there, I see Mr. Ken Bourne sitting there, so as we show interest, you know what that means with the price of the land.
I'm burning my boats here.
It's gonna do that right.
I'm burning my boats. I've been working on this for 2 years now, and the last year I've been sitting on my hands waiting for something to happen, and it hadn't. So I'm publicly setting fire to my own boats.
Just a consensus from this board then that Dr. Mike work with our county manager and with Brian with the and the feasibility of maybe having a committee and reporting back to us if that is needed at our next meeting. How does it sound?
Well, I think we need to go ahead and say, yeah, we're interested in looking at it.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
And that gives us a direction moving forward.
So go ahead and form the committee then.
Yes, sir. If the board, I don't know if we'll have much ready by the next meeting, which is, 2 weeks, but we'll try to bring you something as quick as possible.
Yeah, that was pretty direct.
Yes, sir.
2 weeks, so
In these,
post haste.
in these political
We'll
times,
post that- we will get it to you post haste.
in these political times, if I could go to Bill Holman and say a bipartisan consensus was espoused about supporting this as we move forward toward a committee, I think that's a phenomenal way to say to him, start your process.
I hadn't heard a single person on the
No,
board
I
say no.
think it's
Thank you.
a good idea. and
Thanks, sir.
Thanks for bringing
Appreciate
that
it.
opportunity up.
All right, next we have item 7-4, ECC bond funding, site preparation. Mr. Honeycutt.
I'm going to let our finance officer, Ms. Roberts, handle that.
Susan, Ms. Roberts.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you in this item is to appropriate $2 million of county funds for the upfront site cost in dealing with the ACC bond. Those monies would be reimbursed back to the county as soon as those bonds are sold. So this just allows us to set up the budget, and if they have any costs between now and before we sell the bonds, then those costs are covered.
This is just part of the 15 million that's
This is part of the
board
15 million.
approved, right?
Correct.
Move the project along.
This will move the project
Cash flow
along.
to-
Yeah,
I think that'd be
there
great.
was